My dad said I didn't belong in the $850,000 home I paid for, and my sister tried to claim it as hers, so I quietly turned the tables and left them to face the consequences they created. My sister stood in my $850,000 home before the family reunion, smirking. "Dad promised this as my wedding gift," she said. "You really think this is your place?" My dad laughed after I paid $760,000 for it. "You don't belong here," he added. I said nothing, just pulled out the deed and texted them. "You really think this is your house?" Emma said, her voice echoing off the high ceilings like she already owned the place. She was standing in my living room barefoot now, heels kicked off by the fireplace, like she was checking out square footage before closing the deal. "Dad promised this house to me as a wedding gift." She turned and looked at me like I was trespassing. I still had the bottle of red in my hand, the one I bought for the family reunion I thought we were about to have. My fingers tightened on the neck of it. I hadn't even said hello. Then Dad walked in, looked at me, then at Emma, then past me like I was invisible. "You brought money," he said, "but you don't belong here." That was it. No hug, no good to see you. Just a casual erasure of the $760,000 I'd poured into this place over the past 10 years. My life savings, a decade of brutal freelance gigs, 2 jobs at once, no vacations, no safety net. They stood in my kitchen, and acted like they'd caught me squatting. I didn't say a word. I just walked to the drawer next to the stove, pulled out a clear sleeve, with one crisp document inside, and placed it on the island. Dad glanced at it, squinted a little. His jaw twitched. It was the deed. Then I took out my phone, calm, no drama, just a single message I drafted months ago, not because I thought I'd use it, but because I knew someday I might have to. Family chat, it's sold. Silence. Emma's face drained, her smirk vanished. She looked around the room again, at the fireplace, the canyon view, the hardwood floors, the same way people look at something they know they'll never touch again. "You're lying," she said, her voice cracked. I didn't respond. She didn't know the papers were signed yesterday, that the money already hit, that escrow closed 2 hours before they barged in. But it was never about the house. Not really. It was about the assumption that no matter how much I paid, no matter how far I got, I would still be the kid they could step over. Well, not anymore. And when the door finally closed behind them, I didn't feel angry. I felt free, because this wasn't the end. This was the start, and they had no idea what was coming. The worst part? I wanted to believe they didn't mean it like that. Even after that moment in the kitchen, Emma smug, Dad cruel, me silent, I still told myself maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe they were stressed. But the thing about family is, when someone shows you who they are and you still hope they'll be someone else, you become your own jailer. This didn't start last week. It started years ago. I was the one who paid Emma's student loans when she dropped out of college twice. I was the one who wired money when Mom said her card got skimmed and they were waiting for the refund. I sent $1,000 here, $2,000 there, always just until next month. For 6 years, I never got a dime back. Never even got a thank you card. I paid the taxes on my parents' house 3 times, and they never even noticed. They thought the county stopped sending notices because they were senior citizens. I covered Emma's car insurance for 2 years after she crashed her own and blamed it on an icy driveway in July. Then she bought a new car and posted selfies with it on Instagram with the caption, "Some of us were just born lucky." No tag, no mention, just a stolen moment from someone else's wallet. Still, I said nothing. I was the invisible safety net. I made good money, so they thought they were entitled to it, until I bought that house. That house changed everything. Suddenly, I had something they couldn't ignore, couldn't absorb into their mess, and they hated it. It started small. One night, Emma sent a message in the family group chat, "Can't wait to move into my dream home. Big things coming. Stay tuned." I didn't react, but I saw Mom liked the message. Dad replied, "That's my girl. You always deserve the best." 2 minutes later, Emma sent me a private message, "Don't act shocked if we have the reunion at your place. You're the one with the extra rooms." Then the public stuff began. A picture of my house, taken without my knowledge, posted to her Instagram story, manifesting my future view. I texted her, "Where did you get this photo?" She left me on read. Then came the fundraiser. Yes, the fundraiser. Emma launched a GoFundMe titled, "Help us build our family dream home." In the description, she wrote, "This property has been in our family for generations. My brother is just the placeholder, as if I was renting my own life." People started sharing it, distant cousins, old classmates. She raised $14,000 in 3 days. I confronted her. She said, "It's not personal. You're just too attached to stuff. You always were. Then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, the video dropped. A 22-second clip on Facebook. Dad walking through my hallway, giving a fake tour of his future son-in-law's home. Right here is where we'll put the pool table. Emma always wanted that. Probably knock out this wall, widen the kitchen, got to make room for grandkids. Of course, we're grateful to our son for keeping the lights on in the meantime. 700 likes, dozens of comments. Wow, looks amazing. Can't wait to visit. Nobody knew the truth. That the house was in my name. That the mortgage came out of my account. That the only thing they owned was entitlement. That's when I stopped playing along. I started digging. I remembered something. Emma's old hard drive. She used to carry it everywhere. Brag that she backed up everything. I never delete. You never know when you'll need a receipt. I went to my storage unit. Found the backup she left years ago when I helped her migrate laptops. Plugged it in, waited. At first, it was just junk. Selfies, folders labeled Bridesmaid Inspo, files named LO and Final Fanel Free C3.pdf. Then I saw the folders. Ex's family fakes do not delete. Screenshots for proof. I opened family. Inside were dozens of edited screenshots. Texts she altered to make it look like. I threatened her. Emails rewritten. My words twisted into threats and insults. She even had voice memos stitched together to fake angry voicemails from me. I listened to one. You don't matter. I hope your life falls apart. My voice, but cut and glued together like a ransom note. You could hear the choppiness if you listened closely. But who would? She was preparing for something. I copied everything. Then I checked the timestamps. Some of those messages were from dates when I was out of the country. She didn't just manipulate the family, she built a case. A case for what? I didn't know yet, but I wasn't waiting to find out. I started my own file. Then the final crack. 3 nights before the reunion, I got a text from one of Dad's old friends, Ron, a guy I hadn't heard from in years. Just for your information, your dad's been showing people around the house. Told me he's gifting it to Emma. Is that true? I didn't reply. Instead, I called the realtor, the same one who helped me buy the place, and said 4 words I thought I'd never say. Let's list the house. They showed up in matching colors, Emma in ivory and pearls, Mom in some kind of floral situation, and Dad in a blazer he only wore when he wanted people to think he still had control. They came early, of course they did, because they thought it was already theirs. The reunion was supposed to start at 5 o'clock, guests arriving around 4:30. But at 3:48 in the afternoon, I heard the gate code beep and 3 sets of footsteps echo across the marble entryway of a house I had already sold. I was waiting in the kitchen, calm, focused. I had set everything exactly the way I wanted it. Dad stepped in first, looked around like a landlord doing a final walkthrough. "So this is the big goodbye, huh?" he said. "Well, better late than never. Just sign the transfer papers after the party and we're square." I didn't answer. Emma followed him in, stopped in the living room, smiled wide like a bride walking down the aisle. God, I can't wait to paint this place. Maybe that awful gray can finally go. No offense. Mom was last. She didn't say anything. She never did. Just watched. I let them speak. Let them settle in. Let them climb just high enough to enjoy the view before the drop. Then the doorbell rang. I opened it and there he was, Zach, Emma's ex, the one she humiliated and discarded, the one who moved out after they bled him dry. He looked sharper than I remembered, jacket folded in hand, Emma's face shattered. "What are you doing here?" Zach didn't answer. He stepped inside, nodded to me, and laid the folder on the kitchen island. "I think it's time the family saw the real Emma," he said, clear and loud. Then he opened the folder. Inside were screenshots, transcripts, and a printed timeline of messages and voice memos pulled from the hard drive I found, dated, verified, enhanced. My friend in digital forensics owed me a favor. Emma lunged. "This is fake. You can't just bring trash here." "Sit down," I said. My voice came out lower than I expected. It didn't sound like a plea. It sounded like law. She stopped. Dad moved toward the folder, read one page, just one. His face didn't move. Then I spoke. "This is a message Emma sent to Zach's boss, posing as a former girlfriend, trying to get him fired." Silence. "This is a fake text chain she created between me and her, where I supposedly threatened her." I pulled out the tablet I had set up on the dining table and tapped the screen. A voice recording played. My voice, but stitched, glitchy, broken between tones. "You're nothing. I've always hated your guts." Dad flinched. Mom stepped back. Then I dropped the drive on the table. Everything she's ever lied about, it's here. Dated, stamped, recoverable. Emma was shaking. "You're making a scene," she screamed. "No," I said, "I'm ending one." Then came the second guest, my grandfather, Dad's father. He hadn't spoken to any of us in over a year, but he was the only person I ever trusted to call things as they were. He stepped inside, quiet and terrifying in his own way. Dad's face went pale. Grandpa walked up to the table, looked at the papers, then at Emma. "You always were your father's child," he said, then turned to Dad. "You lied. You used this boy. You stole from him. And you let your daughter do worse." Dad finally cracked. "Don't come into my house." "It's not your house," I said. I pulled a white envelope from my back pocket and slid it across the table. "This is the final transfer agreement. Signed, witnessed, closed yesterday." Emma blinked. "You sold the house?" "Yes. Full market value. No discount, no gift, no inheritance." "But Dad said..." She turned to him. "You promised." He snapped. "I said what I had to say. You think this is about you? I built this family." Grandpa raised a hand. "No, you ruined it." Then I looked at all of them. At Emma, who used me. At Mom, who let her. At Dad, who orchestrated every manipulation like a tired con artist running his final trick. "You said I didn't belong here," I said. "So, I'm leaving, but I'm taking everything you thought was yours with me." Then I turned and walked away. I didn't stay for the rest of the party, didn't wait for the other guests to arrive. I left them standing in a house they thought they owned, surrounded by proof they built their lies on a foundation of stolen loyalty. And the only thing louder than the silence behind me was the sound of that front door slamming shut. I didn't go home that night, not the next day either. I checked into a hotel, one of those quiet, expensive ones I used to scroll past and think, maybe someday. I booked 2 weeks, paid up front, not because I had nowhere to go, but because I needed space. I needed to stand at a distance and look at my life without them in the frame. Room service, coffee on the balcony, long walks without my phone. I texted my manager, said I was taking a personal week, then turned everything off. Day 1, the first call came. My mother, then another, then another. 18 missed calls in a single day. I didn't answer. Day 3, my father broke the silence. "What have you done? Everything's falling apart." I stared at the text, saved it in a new folder titled, "That's Their Burden Now." Day 5, Emma showed up at the hotel. She didn't know my room number, but she stood in the lobby in oversized sunglasses, holding something in her hand, a paper, a folder, maybe another performance. I saw her from the elevator, paused, then stepped back inside and let the doors close, let her stand there. Day 9, the notary called. The money had cleared, the house was officially sold. The account I'd opened quietly months ago was now active, untouchable, and completely out of their reach. I didn't feel triumph. I felt stillness. Later that night, I did something I'd been putting off for years. I filed the LLC paperwork for my own agency, a small, discreet business offering. Property audits for people who suspect financial abuse or familial fraud. No social media campaign, no grand reveal, just a website and a waiting list. Turns out, a lot of people are tired of being used by the people who claim to love them. Clients came fast, an old coworker, a friend of a friend, even an investor my father once mocked for not having enough guts. He reached out with a contract and a check. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a backup plan. But back at their house, the chaos had begun. A neighbor from the old street texted me, "Your mom came by asking to borrow money, said you were having a disagreement." She was crying. I told him, "Don't believe a word. I'm not part of that story anymore." He understood. Week 4, I got a letter from the bank, confirmation that my name was officially removed from all accounts related to my parents' mortgage and expenses. They now had full financial responsibility. If they didn't pay, collections would come. I didn't flinch. I didn't call to explain. I didn't ask if they were okay. I just deleted the last password from my vault. That week, I got a message from my mom's old colleague. She says you've changed. That you're out to destroy your family. That you're not the same son. I replied with one line, "I just stopped destroying myself." That was the last response I ever gave. No long monologue, no confrontation. And then, finally, it got quiet. No more calls, no more guilt trips, just quiet. But not the lonely kind, the peaceful kind. The kind that lets you sleep without clenching your jaw. The kind that lets you make breakfast without wondering who's going to ask for something next. The kind where silence isn't punishment. It's freedom. The last time I saw any of them was the day I closed the door on that house. My house, now someone else's. 2 months passed. No calls, no messages, nothing, until the whispers started. It wasn't a reunion. It wasn't regret. It was damage control. One of my agency contacts forwarded a name from a fraud screening report. Someone applying for housing assistance under questionable income history. The applicant, Emma. Co-signers, my parents. I didn't intervene. I didn't respond. I just made a mental note. They're still trying to game the system, even without me in it. A week later, my accountant called. Someone had tried to file a joint enterprise form using my old credentials. The IP address traced back to my father's town. Game on. But I didn't scream. I didn't warn. I just cut. Closed every remaining shared account, canceled the last. Access permission, my mother had to just check the balance. Renamed. My agency re-registered the legal entity under a new parent company. Pulled every last string they could have used to reach me. Then I did something final. I changed my name. Not for show, not for drama, just for ownership. I took my grandfather's last name. The only man in the family who ever looked me in the eye and didn't flinch when I cried. My first name stayed, but somehow it sounded different now, unchained. The new office was small, clean, sharp. No distractions, no clutter, no people I didn't choose. Above the entrance, I mounted a silver plaque. We don't work with family. People asked if it was a joke. It wasn't. It was a declaration. At the opening, I didn't invite anyone from the past. No old friends of the family, no he means well relatives. Only my team, people I trust. People who don't need me to be their emotional support system just to function. And then something quietly perfect happened. I stopped for coffee one morning, same order, same spot, and heard a voice behind me. My mother. I hadn't heard her voice in months. It was exactly the same, and yet somehow smaller. She saw me, froze. I turned, looked her straight in the eyes, and walked past her like she was no one. No anger, no words, just silence. For the first time in her life, she didn't speak. And for the first time in mine, I didn't care. My apartment now. High ceilings, big windows, furniture I chose. No hand-me-downs, no ghosts, no clutter. There's no family portrait on the shelf, just a single framed photo, me, standing in front of the new office, holding the keys like a sword. And on the mailbox, a new last name, no history, no shame. A neighbor once asked why I chose it. Is it a tribute? No, I said. It's the only name that never lied to me. There's something powerful about disappearing without explaining, about letting people talk themselves in circles trying to figure out why you stopped responding, why you stopped saving, why you stopped being the one who always came back. They don't understand. It wasn't a snap. It was a slow burn. Years of small betrayals, swallowed pain, invisible sacrifices. Until one day I just stepped out of the fire and didn't look back. I still get questions from outsiders, from people who heard something happened. They ask, do you ever miss them? I smile and say, you can't miss what you never had, because what I had wasn't love. It was leverage. And the second I stopped letting them use it, the whole house of cards collapsed. One night, I walked past the office after hours. The silver plaque over the door caught the light just right. We don't work with family. It gleamed. And beneath it, I added a second line that week. A new engraving. Small but permanent. If you think I owe you something, you were never family to begin with. No one will see it unless they're looking. But they will, because I know how these stories travel. I know eventually someone will walk up to that door and wonder what happened to the quiet kid who used to hand out money like bandages. They'll see the plaque, they'll see the name, and they'll know he's gone. And the man who replaced him doesn't bleed for anyone. I'm not a weapon anymore, but I still know how to cut.